when they walked away. And Zerky said, "Brother, I've missed you." When Ryerson hugged him from the side and also said, "I have missed you too." Meanwhile, I was now in charge of the torturing section and had been there for eternities by then when someone walked up and I heard, "Sinoriel, we have a contract for you." And I then looked up and asked, "What kind of contract?" "A hard soul to get, but you can. You've been contracted. Bring your most best warriors, killers, deceivers, and manipulators." And I did. My footsteps longing to move, coming up through the bottomless pit to enraged chaos. And with me, I brought quite with such a chilling and mischievous smile. "This contract is ours." As the door that I've been trying to open all this time that wouldn't now has. As I took 2 more steps and let's go. We have a soul to give. And with me, I have brought the worst. Now in the time frame when I wasn't talking to our morals anymore, but was still down there as a bound queen, I relinquished my title and refused to take up the crown or sit on the throne. And by that time, I was down there for eternities. And spitefully, I chose to stay with our morals as wives, who were in a torturous place, plagued by worms in the ground that would use them as food going in and out of their bodies and throughout their skin. And they could never evade it because they slept on the ground. When even though so did I, the worms avoided me. When I realized it was because they were commanded to do so, that's when I realized the worms had a mind. When a demon, a high-ranking one, along with Para, the male throne keeper, then came in, rolling in a big cart full of royal clothes and said, "My queen, Sinoriel, it is time for you to take your rightful place. Here are the most royal clothes that we have. Put them on and come. What are you doing here? Step into the royal chambers of hell's heavens where you belong." But I refused and said, "I will sleep here on the ground with the rest of them." Stunned as the other demon and Para then looked at one another confused. We've never been given this answer before. And even though I said that, the wives still hated me. When they yelled, "Do you think we would still be here if we were given that option? You spoiled priss." But it wasn't because I cared about them. It was merely directed anger and hatred towards our morals. If he wanted something, I would now want the opposite. If he said and did something, I would now say and do the opposite. If he coughed something, I would now cough the opposite. I will oppose him at every length I go. I hate him. And that is exactly what I did. No, I refuse. I will not take the crown. I will not place it on my head. I will not step into the throne room. I will not sit on the throne. And I will not rule with our morals. I will not wear the royal clothes. If he wants me, tell him to come down here and get me himself. As I continued destroying everything in a rage. And they tried begging me so much until they couldn't anymore because I used so many of my powers, threw so many objects at them. Over and over again, until they finally ran away and said, "This is beyond us. Go get our morals." When they came and got him, they said, "Commander, your wife is down there attacking everyone, and because you will not allow us to harm her, or else we will be harmed, we cannot fight her back. For she is using our own powers against us that we gave her. What can we do to her? She will not stop until you come yourself." When our moral said, "Very well, are you sure she wants to see me?" That's what she said. Very well. And just like that, in less than a millisecond, he vanished and appeared before me. But knowing me as well as he does, he already knew that I was a liar. Which I was. And as soon as he came, I ran and attacked him again. Kicking and punching. "Why? Stop! How long will you keep this up?" But I did not answer him, and instead continued to scream, trying to use all the powers that I could to destroy him. But I couldn't. He was immune to it, unlike the others. And the way he looked at me annoyed me. He looked at me as if I was adorable. I'm trying to destroy you, not be adorable. when he yelled, "Wife, stop! You're using too much power!" As we fought and he wrestled me back to the ground. "You're using too much power, it will kill you!" But I still kept fighting. Nothing was gonna stop me. Well, except for eventually, I used so much power that I passed out. "Wife, didn't I tell you?" Slumping to the ground as he picked me up and carried me back to his area, placing me back in hell's heaven. I guess he did come and get me after all. My stairs continuously filled with hatred, and at this time, me and our morals would fight almost every day. But he really didn't care. And every time I would kick him out of my area, somehow, he would come right back. And he can be very stubborn when he wants something. You wish me to forget. Impossible. That's okay. I'll destroy you soon. And the game was on. But in the meantime, our morals had just got back from one of his torturous escapades. And now he's happy dancing because he just had his favorite meal. A human face dancing while filled with a burst of new energy. As we all watched him in pure fascination of such an event, when I asked, "Armor, do you ever feel bad for the people you torture and eat?" When he thought about it, smiled and said, no. He could not feel not 1 ounce of human emotion himself, for he never was one. Afterwards, this happened. Armor was standing there angrily, thinking, as a demon ran in, as they nudged their heads together, which is a demonic greeting, to say hello. When he said, "Zafris, you were not hurt?" When he dropped down to his knees and said, "I was not, but please, promise you will not punish me for what I'm about to tell you." What do you say? "I'm saying that the reason that this all happened was because of her. It was because of Sinoriel." "How do you mean?" "Let me just show you." "Show me." "I was walking, and we were all walking, and there was a soul we were gonna get, which we were contracted for, which you well know. That she was told to bring her best deceivers, manipulators, warriors, and best killers. When she approached me to be one of them, and I said yes. And I was among them that she had chose. And we were on our way out, and where we were, I felt a strange presence. I knew the presence, and I hated it." Go on. "The presence felt good. It felt holy. It felt righteous." When our morals paused and said, "Yahweh." As he continued showing our morals what happened. And my secret was out, because there's something that I didn't tell you guys. Before I got contracted, this was happening. Now before I get to this part, let me first tell you about this. Now this is a scrying mirror. It is used as communication during divination of the past, present, and future. Keeping in contact by using this with the spirits that will relay the message back to you. Now you've seen it so many times in many movies and TV shows that you've probably become desensitized to it. Now for those of you that doesn't know what it is at all, you've probably seen it millions of times, but just didn't know what it was. But even in the movies and TV shows that you watch has been telling you about it all along. For example, let me show you this. Remember this? The evil queen from the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or the evil queen who was also a witch, frequently used a mirror for communication to know the future. It even once appeared on Shrek with Prince Farquaad when he was in love with Princess Fiona. Remember how he observed her? Through the mirror. In this movie, telling you it all. Now listen and watch every little word they speak of on this one.
The woman emerging from the magic mirror was the stepmother of Snow White, killed by Snow White herself. She had been hiding inside the magic mirror until her sister, the Snow Queen, recited a spell and brought her back to life. Now, Ravenna planned to use her sister's army to conquer the kingdom of Snow White and then make her kneel in repentance. As the Snow Queen was mobilizing for war, Chris, hiding in the shadows, raised his crossbow and aimed at her head.
A cross of all weapons aimed at the head as a mockery of Christ.
Hello, Eric. I've missed you.
Sarah tried to take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, but ended up frozen by the Snow Queen. Subsequently, both were chained and taken into the palace. To establish her supreme authority, Ravenna ordered the soldiers to execute them. However, the soldiers did not listen to her. Instead, they cut the chains binding Chris and the others. Feeling her dignity affronted, Ravenna conjured dark spikes, launching an indiscriminate attack on everyone present. Just as they were about to be overwhelmed, at the critical moment, Freya conjured an ice wall, protecting everyone there. She had long been fed up with her haughty sister who usurped control. Here, she was the only true queen. Ravenna, in a fit of rage, unwittingly revealed the truth behind a fire years ago. It turned out that the magic mirror had told Ravenna that Freya's newborn child would surpass her in beauty, fueling her jealousy. She bewitched Freya's husband to set the castle ablaze, killing their daughter. While the two were conversing, Chris had already scaled the ice wall and began furiously attacking Ravenna, but she had merged with the magic mirror, her body made entirely of gold, impervious to weapons.
Mirror on the wall, the fairest one of all.
Who are you?
A little rusty on your fairy tales, I see. Evil witch, magic mirror, speaks only the truth. Perhaps this will help. Freedom's lost must be unwitting into the glass to do my bidding.
It's done. I've already cast a spell to seal this portal once you're through. Not even I can reopen it. And you'll be out of my life forever.
Without me, you'll fail. And even worse, you'll be alone.
Better alone than with you.
You think you're better alone? Let's see how you really feel.
The Queen wants to know why you've come to Wonderland.
I'm in search of someone. In her native land, she goes by Cora.
In this land, she goes by Your Majesty. Leave us. Your name, pirate?
Hook.
What a clever nickname.
Have you ever thought to ask, why did she consider Hook to be a clever nickname?
Mirror. Mirror? Sydney.
Yes, Your Majesty. What can I do for you?
You can help me change fate.
I can probably tell you if you're wearing too much eye makeup, but change fate, that is beyond my powers of reflection.
Your powers and mine together shall do it. This book is why I'm suffering, not Marion. Every story in it has one thing in common. The villains never get the happy ending. And it's always been right. I thought not being the villain would change things, but this book, these stories, only see me one way.
So what's your plan?
Find the writer. We must find out who wrote this cursed tome. And then force them to give me what I deserve. It's time to change the book. It's time for villains to get their happy endings.
Or like in Ever After High, Dragon Games.
Tell me your troubles. I can't talk to you. Oh, Apple, we have so much more in common than you know.
What do you want?
The same thing you want. I could help you, you know. I can restore things to the good old ways, steer Raven on her course of evil, so you get your happily ever after. But I can't do it from inside the mirror.
Even if I trusted you, I can't let you out of the mirror. That would be wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought maybe you were like your mother. When her time came, your mother embraced her fairy tale destiny. She did whatever it took.
I am not afraid. I will do whatever it takes. And I am like my mother. And my destiny is mine. The evil queen is free!
Yes, after years of banishment, the evil queen escaped.
And at Applewhite's hand, no less.
Years in a mirror prison.
A mirror prison is all black, outer darkness, no light, a place of tormenting punishment. She literally just said,
Without a single reflective surface to gaze at myself upon? Now that's torture.
the biggest torture that she experienced there was not being able to gaze upon herself in admiration of her own reflection. Sounds like someone?
God's greatest work. And I shall ascend above all of creation.
Satan, the master of self-worship.
Who's the fairest one of all?
Now there are many scrying mirrors that we use today and do not realize, like a TV, where you connect with the rest of the world by watching it, where you receive most of your updates, aka messages, from. Same thing with the phone, your biggest line of communication worldwide, instantaneous, even going as far to bounce off of multiple different signals, just to make sure a call gets to you, to aka receive the message. Where with the phone, now they actually give you a little pen that comes out on the side, so you can write on this black reflective surface that you use for communication, just like a scrying mirror. They have successfully made sure that there is at least one scrying mirror in front center of every single house in the world, where they have tricked you into using it, with thousands of different channels. Meanwhile, where there are thousands of different spirits behind it, waiting and ready to communicate whatever they want to you all day. And my secret was out, because there's something that I didn't tell you guys. Before I got contracted, this was happening. Now when I was down there, I would sit in front of a mirror every day and cry. And for some reason, I felt like God could see me and hear me even while I was down there. And that for some reason, I could communicate to him through this mirror. And that he would respond. So every day I did. And began writing on the mirror, saying things like, "Can I come out? I promise I'll be good this time." Eagerly waiting for a response. When one day, immediately after me writing, I was getting one. As I stared, watching anxiously. What was it gonna say? Of course, because God is merciful, he's gonna say, "I'll give you another chance." When the words drew across the mirror from an invisible hand in the inside and said, "No, you're not good enough," as my hopes began to shatter. When the last thing he said crushed me. "You will never get out of here." But God, I thought you were merciful. I thought you loved me and wanted me. But little did I know, it wasn't really God at all. The whole time, it was Satan, doing that with the hopes that I would give up all hope entirely with God, the only one that I thought could save me, and just give up my soul, wear the crown, and turn to the dark world again. because even they knew that the reason that I didn't accept the crown is because I felt like God was watching me and that this was a test. And that if I accepted it, the deal would be sealed and I would be locked down there for an eternity. Dead, as in a judged human. And I was not going to take that risk, which is when Satan came up with his plan, not knowing that it was going to backfire. Now at this time, no one knew, but I had been praying to God the entire time I was down there. When one day I said to myself, I know what to do. During the next witching hour, I would go back in time and sneak out. I would go to my younger self and I would erase her mind that she ever had dark powers in the first place, which will cause the event that happened when I first got initiated to have never have happened, and therefore this moment here would not exist, and neither would I. Now this is the day that I was trying to prevent from episode 1. In the night, witches appeared in my room. There were many of them. There were 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 witches! They came in the house and they flung their hands, and just like that, they put everyone to sleep. They sang and they danced and they chanted around a fire, and when they were done, they said, "Welcome to the coven. You are now a witch." When I finally decided to make my way there, taking off, I am here. I tried to get to the day before the event happened, the day I was initiated, but I couldn't. So instead I went to the next day to the school, the day I would be crowned. I see her sitting among a pile of books in the library, my favorite place, when suddenly I became very sad and almost walked away when I heard a voice say, "I know who you are." When I turned around, "I seen you coming. I've been expecting you," she said. And now younger me and older me are now staring face to face when I smiled and pointed at her and said, "Little seer." When we ran up to one another and hugged, no one else could see me but her. When her smile suddenly went away, when she said, "You're here to erase me, aren't you?" When my face became sad once again, and I said, "What is going to happen to us in the future requires it." When she then asked, "What is going to happen to us?" When I then looked down and said, "Let me show you," and showed her from beginning to end. When she said, "I'll do it for the betterment of us." When I smiled and we shook hands, and the deal was made, as she stared at me so innocently with the biggest doe eyes, and just like that, I erased her memory. And right after that, as soon as I came, I left, making my way back to the dark realm, acting as if nothing ever happened. Because I figured that if I didn't remember that I had any kind of dark powers, then it wouldn't exist because I wouldn't be using them. Therefore, there would be no dark signatures from dark powers for them to trace. I would essentially be erasing myself from the dark world, creating something that is called a time remnant and a paradox, causing there to now be 3 me's, and this phenomenon is called a time remnant. The 6-year-old me, the me in the present tense right now, and the me that just went back into the past. But let me show you in a way that you will understand.
Is now, here, today. This is the time Thawne comes from. This is the moment you all erased him from existence, but since Thawne is from the future, this is where his timeline begins. That's why he's still alive. This Thawne has not yet traveled back in time to kill Barry's mother. He's here now in this time period for the first time. Timeline remnant.
Now do you get it? Now after this is when the contract came. Let's go. We have a soul to get. And with me, I have brought the worst. Now the contract that we had was for a lukewarm. And usually a lukewarm is easy to get. But this soul was hard for them to get because she kept repenting. Well, you'll see what I mean. As we made our way to the location and ran rhythmically side by side, walking through the echoey grass that was filled with all kinds of lilies and flowers. As we made it there to their home, we are here, finally. Softness, you're up. As he took off and touched the glass of her window, and she felt it, sat up, Now, what she didn't know is the reason that she couldn't sleep in the first place. It's because God had already been keeping her up all night just so she could pray, but she never thought to do so. When we began knocking on the door and playing with her mind, "It's nothing," she said. "I'm just being paranoid. Nothing's there." As an angel of God saw her from afar, and just as order came and spoke to her, "Pray, pray." When I looked at him and said, "Not so fast, angel. This one is ours." When I whispered to her, "You don't need to pray. You're tired. Nothing is there. You're a Christian, remember? You've asked for forgiveness many times. God is merciful. Nothing shall harm you." And she was so close to obeying, praying, and picking up the Bible, which would have hurt and injured us so badly, which we feared. But she finally stopped and said, "Nothing will hurt me or harm me. I'm a Christian," and closed it when I smiled, very happy. As the angel, her protection, backed away when I said, "Thanks, angel, but I got it from here." And now we were able to take her. But she saw us before we got to her and tried to run. The search was useless because we had already caught her. When annoyed and tired, I then said, "Don't make this difficult. Just come on." As I extended my hand, when she yelled at the last minute, "God, save me!" As we looked back and laughed together, when I said, "Tell me, how many times has she said this?" When one of them said 1,422 times just in this month alone. When we all began laughing, a serial repenter. When once again she tried to call God, and the demon got so angry that she dared use that name in his presence and said, "Shut up! Don't you know that God does not listen to persistent, unrepentant sinners, even if they profess Christ?" When she yelled, "But I repented every time!" When he said, "Yeah, you sure did, every single time, and did it again. Don't you know that repentance is not saying sorry, turning away from your sin and to God? When have you done that?" When I then thought to myself, so it wasn't God that has been talking to me the whole time through the mirror? And I became angry and took it out on her when I said, "You see, God doesn't hear you. He doesn't want you. Don't you see you're here with me? And I have you," snatching her out of her body and taking her with me. When I looked, and for a second I couldn't touch her. As light burst and radiated around her, she in that moment became untouchable to even me, because she repented again, and this time she sincerely meant it. When something flashed before us, when we looked up and noticed that we all got thrown back in an instant. But where? We were in the future now, when the trumpets blast. For us, the rapture and the judgment was the day we feared. We were afraid, as I watched all the real Christians go up and the world turned to chaos. And she was untouchable. We could not touch her anymore. There was nothing we could do. But we all started to run away because the power of God was too great. We feared him. We were going to lose her. She was going to go. But then she said something. "If God doesn't take me with him, I don't believe in him and I hate him." We were running, but when we heard that, we stopped. And we all snarled, and I looked back as we all sneered. We got her now. This is my chance. As I ran towards her, snatched at her heart. When the next thing I knew, I got snatched up too. And I thought to myself, it must have been God I was speaking to in the mirror. He's having mercy on me. But it was not at all what I thought. When our morals felt what was going on, and in an instant he arrived. And he was too late by then, because I was already going up. When he stayed on the ground yelling, "No! God, you take everything from me! Why can't I have anything good? What's it to you? I hate you! I hate you! Why her?" Cursing him out in every word he knew. But I could care less. I was going to heaven. God wants me, even as horrible as I am. Or so I thought. And right after I just left my younger self, they then soon came to the same place. "Do you want the crown?" And younger me said, "Yes." Also later on I found out that when I went back to my younger self, it was I that led them to me in the first place, because they were tracking my power signature. And that is how they found me, to crown me. It was my fault. While trying to prevent me from getting crowned, it's what led them to me in the first place, to crown me. Now let's fast forward back to the conversation between our morals and the demon. As our morals stood there and the demon continued, "You see, It was her. It was Sinoriel that was responsible. It was her. What are you really saying? Just say it. The betrayer you were looking for in your ranks is Sinoriel. She's the one that invited God when he said impossible. That's not true. After all I have showed you? When our morals began to think, he kneeled down to his height and said, are you saying that it was my wife that betrayed us? And that she is the traitor that I've been looking for? A crime that is punishable by death by Satan himself? I'm sorry to say this, Commander, but yes. And now that you know, as Commander, you will have to act out the punishment yourself, or I fear this may be the end of your reign. What has she done?